This is a test security and ethics training for the 2018-19 school year for the Kansas Assessment Program for anyone who will be assisting in the administration of the Kansas assessments. There are a few websites that you'll want to use if you need to go back and review the information or find additional information. The first website is www.ksde.org, and from there you will go to the A for Assessments. At the top of the screen, you will see Kansas Assessment Program Overview that will tell you what assessments are given and the specifics of each test. If you scroll to the middle, you will be able to see the accommodations information, and at the bottom you will find the test security and ethics files that are needed for you to read while you are taking this training. The second website that you'll need is www.ksassessments.org. The website will give you specific information on KITE, which is the testing application that is used to administer the test. From there, you will be able to click on Assessments and go to Summative. The drop-down menu will tell you about the standards that are assessed and a little bit more about the test. You will also see on the right a link to the KITE Technology practice page. This gives you some login information that you can give your students to do demo practice tests before they take the final summative tests. The third site is the KITE Educator Portal. You probably will not use this site much for the summative assessments, but if you're giving interim assessments, this might be a site you visit often. Each of you should have received an email with login information for this website. If you have not, you need to contact your district test coordinator. If you have given assessments in the past, please note that this site address has changed. One of the most important documents that you will need to access and review after the first week of January is the Kansas Assessment Examiner's Manual. You will need to download this manual and review it before the state assessments begin. There are 3 documents that you need to have to be able to have everything you need for this training. You will need to have the Test Security and Ethics Fact Sheet. You will need to have the Appropriate Testing Practices Fact Sheet and the Kansas State Testing Security Guidelines document. Those can also be found on the ksde.org at the bottom of the assessments page. In the Kansas Assessment Program Overview, you will see a list of the tests that will be given this year and the grade that will be completing the assessment. This year we will have mathematics, ELA, and science assessments for our students, but the grade varies based on the subject. The time estimate is to be completed is only an estimation, and it is important to remember that the tests are not timed. These times are only a reference to be able to plan. You will see the testing window is from March 11th, 2019 to April 26th, 2019. If a student arrives in the district after March 11th, 2019, they do not need to take the assessment. Please take some time right now to review the Test Security Guidelines document. Pause this video and read through them, and when you have completed it, come back to the video and we will go over some of the important points in this document. There are also 2 fact sheets that you will need to review before you continue. These documents have been broken down into 2 parts. The first is the 1819 Test Security and Ethics Fact Sheet, and the second is the 1819 Appropriate Testing Practices Fact Sheet. Please pause the video and read through them, and we will, when you have completed them, come back to this video. The purpose of this training is to make sure that the people who are administering the state assessments follow all security protocols, regulations, and procedures. In order to have reliable and valid test scores, the Department of Education must make sure that the security and confidentiality of the state testing materials are upheld. Therefore, anyone involved in administering the assessments must be trained yearly. Anyone involved must be an employee of the school, which means that volunteers and parents are not allowed to help. When logging in to the Kite Educator portal for the first time this year, you will be prompted to agree that you will not give out, loan, or share your password with anyone. Personal student information is housed in the Educator portal, therefore it's very important to make sure you do not share this information with anyone for any reason. Daily access codes will be available to the district test coordinator and the building test coordinator after 2 p.m. the day prior to the test. You will each receive an email that has a password-protected Microsoft Word document that contains the daily access codes for each grade and subject. The password to open the Word document will be the full date of testing, including the slashes and zeros. Students will be given one username and password to log in to take their tests for the entire testing season. Once logged in, they will have to enter the daily access code to be able to take the test for the day. Do not print the daily access codes, but they may be written on the board for the class to see that day. If you have a student that needs accommodations, a special education teacher from your building will need to fill out a personal needs profile for that student. To review the accommodations that are available, review the accommodations manual. In order for a student to receive an accommodation, it must be part of their IEP or 504 student plan and must be part of their regular class instruction. The test coordinator will then enter the accommodations into the Kite Educator portal to allow these accommodations to be available when the student takes their test. You will find a list of accommodations that are available to all students and for those who require a PNP on the KSDE website. There are tools available to all students, so it is important to take a look at these tools so that you are familiar with them. Having students take practice tests is also a way to allow them to see what tools they will have available and to give them practice using these tools. If you find test items that you believe are incorrect, or if you have problems with a student test, it is important not to save any test items on your computer or personal storage device. You cannot take a picture of a student's screen or share specific details on any test item. If you have an issue, please make sure that you refer to the item as general as possible, such as the student doesn't think item 5 on section 1 has an answer. This information will then be reported to the state by your building or district test coordinator. If you have a situation where a student is unable to complete a test session, a reactivation may be required before the student tries to log into the test again. Teachers cannot reactivate a test, but a district or building test coordinator can reactivate. A log will be kept of all activations for documentation purposes. The following items are found on the Appropriate Testing Practices fact sheet under Acceptable Practices. As discussed before, it is important to make sure students have had experience with using testing format by using the Kite Technology Practice Tests. The content in these test items are not accurate per grade level, but are simply there to be able to practice the tools that they will be able to use in the Kite system. It is important to ensure that students who will be receiving accommodations have the same accommodations as part of their regular classroom instruction. Please make sure to follow your district's proper procedure for collecting and destroying materials. Student notes, scratch papers, and drawings must all be collected by the teacher and turned in to the test coordinator at the end of the test session. If you have bulletin board displays in your classroom or other instructional materials that could be beneficial or give an unfair advantage to students during the testing, please remove or cover them. When a student is finished with a testing session, make sure that you have verified the review end screen before they exit the test. If you lose or cannot account for any of the assessment materials, please make sure that you contact your building test coordinator or district test coordinator. Anyone who is giving a state assessment must actively monitor the testing environment by moving around the room. This allows students to stay focused on their own work and not be tempted to look at the work around them. The following items are explained on the appropriate testing practices fact sheet under unacceptable practices. You are not allowed to say or do anything that would let a student know if their answer is correct or incorrect. You cannot ask a student how they got to a certain answer on their test or why they selected that answer. You are not allowed to tell students to redo or go back and review any items once the test has begun. It is unacceptable to save or store any test items on a computer or personal device. Test items may not be shared via email or other file sharing systems or be reproduced for any reason. You cannot discuss any part of the assessments with colleagues during, before, or after the administration of the assessment. Once assessments have begun, you cannot conduct any reviews or drills. Curriculum may be continued to be taught, but not as a review for any specific purposes of the test. Students cannot be required to use scratch paper or show their work. Scratch paper cannot be graded and must be collected and destroyed at the end of the test. There is a possibility of a monitor visit by KSDE staff in about 10% of Kansas schools during the test administration. Districts that are both large and small in size have the potential of being visited. It is intended to support districts and support ethical testing practices. Monitor team visits will be scheduled directly with the district test coordinator. Now that you have finished the ethics and training session, you will be able to take the quiz that has been emailed to you. After your quiz has been taken, please sign the agreement to abide by guidelines and return it to your test coordinator. The quiz and the signed agreement are both required before you can assist with any assessments for the spring 2019 season.